as they slowly emerge. I think probably my most favorite episode is the one where they go to the kindergarten, and yeah, they
Which one?
oh the one where Stephen and Amethyst runs away. The first one. Yes, and so we learn how Amethyst is created. And she's like, yeah, this is my hole, and Stephen looks up, and there's all of these holes, and the music turns a little ominous, and it's like something happened here, and it's not quite. I'm not getting good vibes from this, but we don't know, and and they don't explain it. It's the perfect thing, and until so that was good writing.
I think that some episodes, sometimes I'll watch them and it'll feel a little bit like a filler episode occasionally, but I have to remember that, number one, even like the episodes that seem like that they're just filler have all these hints throughout them if you watch them carefully of things that are going on. And also Steven Universe can get dark. Like the Keep It Together episode with the Gem Mutants and like Garnet freaking out, I was like, oh, this is body horror and I don't know how to deal with this in a children's show. So I feel like they need those sort of lighter episodes that aren't like making light of the war, but are like, hey, we also like to do this. We also like to like play at the arcade, and maybe Garnet's third eye gets hypnotized by like the meat. Like, I'm like, okay, and so I initial watching, sometimes I'll be like, oh, that episode. But then when I go back and rewatch it, I'm like, oh yeah, it was perfect.
I was going to interject. One of the things I really appreciate about the writing and like the character design is every character has their flaws, and it's revealed even early on in the series that Garnet is easily mesmerized by things, and Pearl has her kind of like obsessive, compulsive behaviors, and Amethyst can be very like off the cuff and unpredictable. And Steven is just really annoying sometimes. Which the other characters actually refer to him as such, but yeah.
But even other characters like Rose Quartz, she was the leader, but even she had her flaws, her trying to talk to the father. It's like, yeah, that was an amazing episode too. Yeah.
And if we're going to go into headcanon a little bit, I feel like Rose Quartz is a little bit sinister. I'm not saying she did it on a bad level, but when you watch the extended intro and you see Steven sitting in the palm of her hands and saying, I'm going to fight to be... That smile on her face is a smirk. It's not a smile. It's like, my plans have come to fruition. I'm not saying they're bad plans, but she was a planner, and I think that's super interesting to recreate this, because in a lot of cartoons you have the absent mother, right? Like in many, many cartoons, go to Disney and it's nothing but absent mothers. But in this, she's absent but present at the same time. She's present in Steven, but also, like LaShawn said, her influence is all over the show, all over. She still affects all the characters deeply, and I think it's a great defense against the whole like mothers don't matter idea that a lot of like cartoons seem to feed into.
Also, Lion raises quite a few questions in that regard. Like, why is he suddenly there? He's connected with Rose. We still don't know how. And, yeah.
There's a theorist on YouTube that I recently got addicted to a little bit, called AJ Universe. I don't know if anyone else watches him. Only reason I started watching was I glanced at it and it was like, your friend K. Tempest Bradford is also watching. And I was like, okay. I was like, I trust Tempest. I'll watch these episodes. And he really does have some great theories. And unlike a lot of other theorists on YouTube, I don't feel like he's calling people stupid who don't believe in his theories. He's always like, I might be wrong. Tell me what you think. And his theory on Lion is that Lion was a regular Earth Lion that Rose changed and altered to protect Steven at some point in his life.
Like the plants.
What?
Like she does with the plants.
Exactly, like she does with the plants. It's shown that Rose really has this connection to living creatures. And when you think about it, would she have ever known she had this power before she came to Earth? It's clear that the gem world doesn't have biological life. So this is something she probably discovered on Earth. So then it raises the question as, was she really talking about humans when she said there was something here to save? Or was it the plants that she could talk to and the animals that she could affect?
I guess we can then get into one of the questions that was on the panel description is the fact that Steven Universe is created by a largely white group of creators, which I'm guessing refers to character designers, writers, and that, despite all the black women appearing, there are none to be seen on the staff, I guess with the exception of some voice actresses. What do you think this means to its many fans?
I mean, so much of entertainment is, it's not remarkable for me.
I guess I never expected it to be anything different.
Yeah.
I mean, this is Cartoon Network's first cartoon created by a woman in how many years? Like, they're obviously not a progressive sort of environment. And so I'm not surprised that most of the people behind the scenes are white. At the same time, I think that they have done what a lot of people of color have been asking white creators to do for a long time, which is to create a diverse world, to see us as people, to make us three-dimensional. If you're going to create a world and you want to create us, make us people and not just stereotypes. And they do that exceptionally well, especially with the Maheshwarans. I adore the Maheshwarans.
Yeah, they're awesome. Yeah.
Her mother reminds me of my mother a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Like,
that's
oh,
cool.
jeepers.
The pizza family. I love
The pizza family.
Grandma.
Grandma. And
Yes.
the I can't remember the daughter's name, the one who's always stealing the car. Is it Kiki or is Kiki the good one?
Kiki's the good one.
Kiki's the good one. But
Jenny.
That moment in the road trip episode where she's in there with Steven and the other two people, and she's like, "Don't ask me to help you with your homework. I'm the evil twin. How long did it take to get here?" I was like, I like this girl. I like her.
Oh, yeah.
But that whole family is really interesting, and they've sort of taken upon themselves to create this small hamlet that has a lot of people of color. You have the pizza family, you have the person who's in charge of Wonder Wharf, or not Wonder Wharf, that's Bob's Burgers. The arcade, yes. It's Mr. Smiley. I mean, I could even see arguing that Lars might be a person of color. Like, it's sort of ambiguous whether he is or not. Yeah. I think they do a good job. Oh, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, and the mailman, I think, too. What is his name?
Jamie.
I have a special fondness for him because theater.
I just wanted to say that the one of the executive producers is a black man.
Oh.
And
Ian
the pizza
Jones.
family was sort of like based on his Ghanaian relatives.
Oh, really?
Yeah, actually, so I was doing a little bit of research into the people behind creating Steven Universe, and the Steven Universe wiki has a huge section where pictures of all of the different people, voice actresses or actors, artists, character designers, storyboard writers, producers, directors, composers, and there's actually a pretty almost. And some of those individuals were repeated through different departments, but there was almost a 50-50 people of color versus white people, although it was a lot more male people of color, a lot of Asian Americans actually. So I was curious but most of the, especially African American staff were voice actresses and actors. The other interesting thing I found in doing some research was that, against a lot of Hollywood norms, where they'll often cast white people to voice characters of color, they've kind of done the reverse in this show, where they've gotten voice actors and actresses of color to voice white characters, which is interesting. A little bit of invisibility there, though, too. So.
Also, can we just point out Nicki Minaj voicing Sugar Light?
Which I didn't even realize until I was doing this research. I was like, Nicki Minaj?
As soon as she formed when I watched the episode, I was like, I know that voice. And my friend Chris showed me, if you've not seen this amazing video, someone set the
Dances to Monster?
the Fusion to
Wait,
Monster
what?
by Nicki Minaj.
No
So it's
way.
Garnet
What?
and it's Garnet and Amethyst fusing to Monster. And then as they form
I
and
have to
scream,
see
it
this.
becomes
What?
like that scream in the verse. It's
Utterly
utterly fantastic.
Someone
It's
post
on
that to
YouTube.
this hashtag. I want to see this.
Yes, we all need to see it. Yeah.
It's on YouTube. It's amazing.
That's amazing.
And I think that, I don't know, I just love her. I want Sugar Light back.
I wanted to come back and do a song because this show has so many songs.
The
Why did
songs
Nicki
are
Minaj sing?
amazing.
One interesting thing there. The casting call specified that I think every voice actor had to be able to sing. It was like a requirement. They made an exception for Joel Hodgson, obviously, but they're not going to be giving him any musical numbers, thank goodness. I can't get over that that they got Patti LuPone to voice Yellow Diamond. I mean,
It was a
most of
veto.
the voice cast got their start in theater. Well, many of them did, and Patti LuPone, she's basically royalty to theater kids.
I recently got a couple coworkers hooked on the show, and the most interesting response I got from one of my managers was, "Why didn't you tell me it was a musical? If you had told me that, I would have been into it much sooner." I don't know, it just like was so, the music is so weaved into the show, I don't think of the show as a musical show.
Yeah.
Like the music is just part of it. And I mean, I'm sure we can all sing a bunch of songs from the show. I don't understand why there's not a soundtrack out like that.
Seriously.
So much money,
Yeah.
so
Not
much
like
money.
My Money Cartoon Network.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I guess I was reflecting a little bit. This goes back maybe to Naman's question about like how do you even identify who the people of color are, like where the gems lie in their own identities in the show. And I was sitting in on the code switching panel earlier today. Was anyone else there? Maybe. And one interesting thing they were talking about was how like Black vernacular is often used in as like a comedy, as people will hear that and want to laugh. And I was thinking about actually in Steven Universe, because Steven Universe is always on my mind lately, where I see that in Amethyst's character, and I don't know if anyone else has noticed that. That when she's very excited or just like trying to play some goofy part, like so there's a little bit of black vernacular that comes out. Has any maybe that's one of those possible improvables, or is that cool? Like I don't know.
To be honest, I never really saw it that way. I mean, Amethyst was Amethyst. So, yeah, I never actually saw Amethyst as black. But then again, that it was more, I guess it was more Garnet, but that's with the curly hair. But even then, the whole idea of black isn't just skin color; it's also culture. So it's like the gems have their own culture, which is definitely not of Earth, but at the same time, it's very, yeah, I think it's more reflective of who they, what they've grown up with, what their history are. So, yeah, I don't know.
And Amethyst seems closer to humans in particular, I guess.
Yeah. There was that one episode where she saw her friend, and that was fun. Yeah. So yeah, it was. Yeah, I would say that she was actually more closer in culture and style of speech with that friend. Yeah.
Amethyst reminds me a lot of some of I live in St. Paul, and we have a very big Hmong and Karen and Vietnamese population.
Yeah.
And a lot of them end up living in the same neighborhoods as African American neighborhoods. And so the English they grow up with and the kids grow up with, and generation after generation, you see a lot of that language just kind of, and it's not necessarily appropriation, it's more of a type of assimilation.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Amethyst's character is very similar to that. And she didn't really know Gem homeworld. She grew up with around humans mostly, and the few gems that were there. So she's probably just picked up on whatever people were talking around her. Which makes me wonder about Garnet's accent, though, because she's got this kind of British, maybe South African accent. I can't quite place it.
The
And I'm
voice
like,
actress is
it
British.
her accent,
Yes, she's British,
or did those countries get a Garnet accent? Because she's been around for a while.
Before we take your question, are there any other comments from the panel?
Real quickly, I was going to say that they do use certain phrases and certain responses to code the gems as people of color. I mean, there's the moment where Pearl says, "Not all pearls know each other." Like, what person of color hasn't had to say that to somebody? So there are these moments where they do get deliberately coded with phrases and with things that we would recognize and identify with, not to mention they are literally people of color. So even if they're not, they're still outsiders. And I think that a lot of us identify, they're all alone, they're marginalized. No matter that there's this group of people around them, no one else understands them but each other in many ways, and Stephen, and sometimes Greg. And so they do have this sort of marginalized community, and I think we identify with that as well.
I was just going to say real quick, like with Barnmates, did any of you really pick up when Paradox slides into AAVE? And that's what threw me out. I was like, that doesn't